Hello everybody, my name is Lorraine Ramirez, and with Kathy Villegas, we are going to be presenting to you this workshop on making posters. Of course, if you are going to be a researcher, you're probably going to have to do a poster sometime in your academic career. So as he mentioned, the inspiration behind this was I submitted a proposal to a conference. It's the NORS conference, which is the National Association of Research in Science Teaching, and I got accepted. So now I have to make a poster, and I don't know how to make a poster. So of course I tried to look for resources here on campus to see how I could come up with this poster and make it. The conference only gave me the dimensions, so I only had that. I had nothing else to go about. So then of course I turned into Kathy being part of the copy center, and she told me, oh yes, of course, we can help you here. And of course, this is how the presentation came about. So in this short time frame, we're going to try to pack as much as we can when it comes to making posters. And of course, what we want is for you guys to be able to do an engaging and effective poster. However, please keep in mind that even though we would like to place a lot of stuff in the poster, we also want you to be able to talk to the people at the conference or the science fair or wherever you're going. So we're going to be showing you some tips and tricks to that. So of course, why a poster? This is certainly a visual representation of your research study. And I do know that sometimes people love to visualize or to picture what you are doing. And that's exactly what you want. You want to grab the attention of the person that is walking in that conference. You're probably going to be next to hundreds of other posters. So how are you going to be able to get the attention of that particular person? You are also going to, within that poster, condense the information. That's why I said, even though we would love to place everything in it, sometimes it's really hard to. And then, of course, you are going to be featuring this work against others, so please keep that in mind when at least picking colors, a catchy title, and images that are going to make the most out of your poster. Okay, so believe it or not, there's more than one type of poster. Okay, even though we are going to talk about the print poster, which is the one that's most commonly used when you go to conferences, we want to share with you that there are two others that are making their way to conferences as well, which is the e-poster. The e-poster is technically, you do a poster, and this company brings their monitors, which of course have this feature in which you can share the poster automatically with the person. Of course, you don't have to carry anything. It's more environmentally friendly. You don't have to print. You can even make corrections. But this, of course, would be provided by the conference to you. Same with the iPoster. In the case of the iPoster, this is something that I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hit within a couple of years. Why? Because this poster is literally interactive. You can actually include video and audio inside this poster. And you do have more space for information, and of course it is environmentally friendly, just like the e-poster is. However, the same thing, the conference has to provide you with a template. The people from the iPosters, which we actually do have an example of the iPoster, they provide you that web design format that you need. Yes, the second one. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a poster made by a student here at FIT for an astronomy conference, and of course, as you can see, you can actually open the tabs and you can look at the information, so it's closer to you. If you scroll right here, then of course you also have the capability of looking at the graphics. In here you can place audio, you can animate, so this is going to be, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be something that will definitely make its way in the future. But just so you guys have it in mind. Okay, but let's continue then. Oh yes, another thing, thank you. You can actually, through the iPoster, if you can contact the author can provide you information whatever information, questions that you might have. And then, of course, you can also get the iPoster if you are interested. And this is something that happens pretty automatically. So when we think about posters, we think about, okay, what are we going to be including in a poster? Well, this is when you go back to when you were in school, and of course, they shoved into your head that you need like an introduction, you need a conclusion, and then of course when you go over the scientific method and whatnot. So, of course, introduction or background, very important, especially if the person does not know what your study is about, or if you are working with something that's completely new. If you want, as a researcher, sometimes you might want to test some other research. That could also be very beneficial to include in the introduction or the background. Methodology, of course, steps that you're taking to doing this research. However, if you have an image, if you have a picture, if you have a better way to actually make this visual to other people, that could also be a way to go when it comes to the methodology. Results and discussions, I would say this part is actually the main focus of your poster. Results and discussion, sometimes you are going to be seeing them as tables and graphs, or images or figures that are relevant to your study. We are going to be talking about the images and the quality of images later on. When it comes to tables and graphs, also please keep in mind that there is a style on how to do them. For example, if you are from the chemistry department, you have to do everything by the American Chemical Society style. Or if it's like me, then it would have to be in the APA. So depending on the style that you have to abide to would be the way that you actually do your tables and your graphs. Conclusion, make sure that you include in that conclusion the main points. So if you found something that is truly relevant, or even something that you might want to explore in the future or as a future study, you can also include it in the conclusion. References, they are usually included there. Smaller font, they don't need to be in the larger font as the rest of the text is, but yes, you should include references. Acknowledgements is not a must, but some organizations do ask you, or maybe your advisor will ask you to include acknowledgements in it. The abstract, it's like not essential, almost 80% of the time. If you actually do have a good introduction and background, and a methodology, then of course you don't need to include the abstract. Remember that we have so much space to actually write things in it. So we're going to be focusing on the main points. And these are like main points if you're going to a conference, but some other conferences or showcases might ask you for different things. For example, I've seen intellectual merit, broader impact. So depending on what you have, and if you have a template, even better, because then you know exactly what you have to include. The logo from the researcher's affiliation or the funding, that is very important, especially if you had a grant or if you were provided a grant, let's say from the National Science Foundation. It's very important that you include the logo for that organization. And of course, if you are going to be representing Florida Tech, that is also something very important to include. Okay, so where to start? And this is exactly where I had to reach out to Kathy for, because I had no idea where to start. So I'm going to leave you guys with her.
Thank you, Lori. So thank you very much for letting me be participating of this workshop. I'm very happy to share with you some little tips and tricks about how to do a poster, make a poster. We know that sometimes designing can be a strength for some individuals, but for certain others, it's a little bit more of a acquired skill. So where to start, as Lorraine said, probably the easiest and most basic application that you can use is PowerPoint. PowerPoint, most of us have learned in school, and so therefore makes it an easy tool for everyone to use. That said, PowerPoint also lets you customize size. At the conferences that you attend, there'll be different requirements for each of you. There are basic sizes that most conferences will keep to, a 24-inch by 36-inch or a 42-inch by 48-inch, and some other requires much larger sizes. So as you're going into these conferences, ask whether they have a template provided. Get all the information about sizing and specific requirements. And if you don't have a starting point and they're saying it's really up to you, then we've worked with the Florida Tech Creative Services team to create Florida Tech designed templates, meaning the template's already pre-made for you and all you have to do is populate it with your information. Lorraine's actually going to click on that link for us. Okay, so if you scroll onto their webpage, it is the marketing toolbox. If you go to the search bar, and there will be PowerPoint templates available for you. And we've worked with Creative Services to tell them what are the most common sizes that we've seen at the Copy Center where individuals are printing for their conferences. So, as I said, 24-inch by 36-inch, 36 by 42-inch, and so on and so forth. And we've made both vertical and horizontal and worked with them to make sure that they are customizable in that sense. And they have all the respective parts that we just discussed. It has an introduction, an objective, methods, conclusion sources, and in the middle it has your results. And as Lorraine said, because the results are the most eye-catching, you put it in the middle. Now, of course, that's not the foolproof type of method to do. You can always rearrange it, but it's the design that the university has created if you're going out to represent the university at a conference, or if you just really want kind of a starting point. So now that you know how to start, what do you do? So we've determined that it's the best place to start is what you're going to say. And it's better to put it in a Word document. So as you're typing your introduction or your methodology, make sure that you put it in a Word document, because as soon as you're done, you pretty much got it set. You've checked all your grammar and all of your the details that you want to display. You can then copy and paste it easily into the PowerPoint document. You will include figures, images, and tables and graphs that you can also copy and paste in, just kind of as a placeholder, and it will help you determine how to go about each section. Make sure you didn't forget to place those specific items in there. Now, just for measures for this presentation, it is what I've seen mostly is that we use the APA style, and so remember that for figures, the information goes at the bottom of your figure image, and for tables, it's like a table. Just think about a table where that you eat. It goes on. Things are placed on the top, so tables go on the top. We'll place this PowerPoint in a location where you can easily reach it, maybe on the ISRA website, and it will give you the information that you can click on these icons. But we've placed the article that we found online. And then, of course, number 3 is have a clear and concise title. That is the first thing that they're going to look at. And what I mean there are those people who are attending the conferences, other researchers, and just kind of think about it as a movie title. What's going to grab the attention? What are you going to really want to say that's simple, but will make people stop and think, oh, hey, that's really interesting. And so, of course, you'll also include the name of the researchers, so your name and your professor, the department, and any other affiliates. Okay. So what else to keep in mind? So we've discussed all the information that you are ready to put in there, but what do you do once you're copying and pasting everything over? The quality of your images. We're going to start there because that's often the hardest part in determining how you're going to apply those graphics into the PowerPoint. So the quality of the graphics are important, and we're going to discuss that in the following slide. So make sure that you're grabbing graphics that are of high quality. The font sizes, your title should be 60 to 70 in size so that it's readable from a far distance. And then your text, you want to keep no greater or less than 20.
Greater or equal to.
Greater than or equal to 20.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, greater or equal to 20
No,
for your text size.
And what's the 60?
60 to 70 is your title size.
Thank you.
Okay. And that's just because if you make it really too small, then it's going to be hard to read for your text size. If you make it too large, then it might just become overwhelming. So make sure you find a really good balance. 20 is kind of what we suggest as a rule of thumb. Depending if you're doing a project for the university, for example, senior design, they have a specific template as we discussed in our previous slide. And some of the advisors that you're working with may require a particular text size. So just make sure that this will all be modified depending on who you're working with here at the university. The colors. So colors are really important. They're also attention grabbing, and you want to make sure that they're visually appealing. We all learned in grammar school about the color wheel, right? So if you do a little bit of Googling on the color wheel, you'll determine what is complementary to each other. But Florida Tech has also modified their colors to assist you if you do want to make changes, to include a different color palette. They modified their crimson to be a little bit that same crimson, but slightly more truer to print. And of course, they're gold and a truer gray. But they've included other interesting colors such as purple and orange and yellow that we didn't have before. And this is all part of the university's initiative to rebrand and create a more different experience with their branding. Of course, they've included different fonts. So if you want to kind of stick really close and truly to the university graphic identity guidelines, it gives you specific information about the fonts that you can use as well. And this is in the graphic identity of the marketing toolbox, if you search that on the Florida Tech website. We're also, it's important to keep in mind about the Florida Tech logo. The logo at the university has also been modified to keep the branding more consistent and make it more recognizable out to the public. And therefore, they've created a variation of logos. They've created, you scroll a little lower, I think.
Would it be logos and words?
Logos and words. Okay. You can specifically download the logos. If you get the tagline logo, it's the one that says the STEM education on it, of a STEM university, and they have one for digital and one for print. So if you are using an e-poster or you're using or you're printing, you can of course select the correct one, and these graphics are already designed so that they will work well with those particular channels, whether it's print or electronic. The traditional logo, what we call the seal, that has been discontinued for use in the university, for public use at the university, and now we see what is the Florida Tech with the gold swoosh, I guess you can call it. And the gold seal is now reserved for official university use. So make sure that you're not using that in your posters, and I think we all kind of recognize a little bit or remember what that logo used to look like.
10 years.
So make sure that you're not using that, an old template or old logos. And so there's a few things that you have to ask yourself about your design. And that will be, does your design flow? Is it too busy? Or is there a balance between your text and your graphics? Because if you have too much of one and too little of another, then it's going to look incomplete or it's going to look a little off. So we've created some samples for you to kind of determine how you're going to go about this, what looks good, what doesn't look good. And so if we can go to the next slide.
Just to give us your feedback on what you think.
A lot going on.
A lot going on? You feel it's too busy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Too much figures.
I'm sorry?
Too much figures and
Too many figures, okay.
And the figures might be necessary for the research purposes. Maybe the person could have been a little bit more concise. I mean, some of these research posters, depending on where they're going, may need all this information, but often we become too technical, and maybe there is a way to really consolidate the information in a different format. You want to think about this, or think about posters in a way where you provide all the detail if you are not there, but if you were there, there as in physically in front of the poster, but if you were there, is it simple enough where all you can do is use it as supplemental, a supplemental piece of information, where you're telling the story, not the posters telling the story. So, of course, you want to give them the information needed for the project, but you're reiterating and giving them the background details. Okay.
I just love how your eyes go like.
So this is a poster that we actually printed for someone. They do not come here to Florida Tech. They're outside of in the local community, so we also print for the local community. And this was a science project for someone in
Science fair.
a science fair.
Science fair. Oh, yes.
Now, we've talked about balance, and one of the things is that this is not quite balanced, and the only thing that you see is a box inside of a box, and too compartmentalized, too many graphics. In this case, you would be correct. There's so many graphics going on. They did not take into account font size. They told the whole story because it's so microscopic you can't read it. And there's just way too much detail that perhaps they could have reserved with supplemental material on a table if they had that available, or that maybe they could tell themselves, right? Give that information themselves. What else do you guys see here? Is there representation of the school they're going to? Maybe the author's name? No? So, I mean, if you worked really hard on it, I would put my name all over it.
Correct.
So,
Right, so don't forget about your affiliation, your name most certainly. And then even though the person knows how to use space very well, it's a little overwhelming. So just keep that in mind.
what about this one? Good? Yeah? A little bit more balanced. You can read it, right? It's got pretty much everything on it, and actually kind of consolidated if you think about it, because they have an introduction and motivation, so they put that all in one. They put the intellectual merit, of course, because they were working with an organization or with a school, and then of course their findings, and they made it simple. So they're telling the story, again, like as we said, without them being there, but they're still providing a lot of the background information, more specifically if they're present. Okay. And then of course they're using the logo. The title is kind of where the logo is supposed to be. Then again, this was a template provided by the university for a specific event for this individual, and so maybe there wasn't too much that they can do regarding that. Yes?
Yeah, I have a comment about the title. The title kind of overlaps the logo, and to me, that should be prohibited. What do you think about
I agree.
Yeah.
No, if that is the case, I agree. Wow.
Correct. There could have been probably a better way to do it. I don't know why the person didn't choose to maybe put it on the second line. We are covering up with a white text box some information about the author, and so maybe there's just conflicting space measurements there. Yes.
it? Yeah, one other small comment.
Sure.
If you look at the bottom section, which reads intellectual merit and broader impact,
Mm-hmm.
if I were to read that first bullet, I have to literally traverse the entire width of the poster, and to me that can be a bit challenging, especially if 2 or 3 people are standing in front of the poster at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, these are all a little bit, there's space confinements, so you kind of have to just work with what you have. Depending on the size, you can put more or you can put less, or you can rearrange differently. I think this individual may have been working with a professor, so this, of course, also goes along with the preference of the professor and who they're working with. So, okay. So tips and tricks to how to get to a better poster, right? So we talked about the quality of images, and how do you determine what is a good quality image? So in the graphic world, we talk about dots per inch, or DPI. And we for printing purposes, know that if you have 300 DPI, that will constitute a high quality graphic. If you want to break that down even further, you can determine that approximately 1200 by 1200 pixels will be in a 300 DPI graphic, or anything larger than 1200 by 1200 will constitute a quality graphic. The pixelation also is determinant of the size. So, of course, you can see that 1200 by 1200 may be a more of a box-like figure. But if you had one side, maybe that one side was 1000 or one side was 1500 by 1200, then you have more of like a rectangular type of graphic. If you cannot find a good graphic, you could settle for 150 DPI, which is about middle of the road. And that would result in about a 800 by 800 pixel size graphic. And actually, we have selected on Google, what you would do is search for the type of item that you're looking for. And this, we did a DNA molecule. Thank you. And Google, if you hover over in like the corner, we'll see that it gives you the pixelation, 400 by 400. That's a really low quality. So make sure that you're not selecting low quality. It may be exactly what you want, but a low quality 400 by 400 placed on a piece of paper is approximately 1 inch little box. And imagine if you were putting a 1 inch box and you're stretching it out on a 24 by 36 poster. It's going to look extremely pixelated, and you might as well not have that on your poster, even though you really want to, because it's just not going to be graphically appealing. It's not going to help your document at all. So make sure that you're looking into, if you do not know how to find high quality, you can always put high res in the search bar and then the name of the object that you're trying to find. Additionally, if you're looking for just free graphics, we suggest using FreePic or PicJumbo, Pixels.com, Unsplash.com, or you can type in Creative Commons, which means that they're open royalty-free type images that you can use. None of these websites are representative of the opinions of the university, just a disclaimer. It's just kind of what you can use and it's available on the website. Use according to your judgment, of course. Now saving pictures. So you're going to save your document, and what if it's not, or that picture that you found, and what if it's not the correct proportions? What if there's too much light on it? What if you want to cover one side of it because you only want like a part of it? You can use Adobe software like Illustrator, InDesign, or Photoshop. I think the DSL lab here carries those licenses, and of course they have individuals there that can help you with that resizing or how to use and navigate those applications.
I'm
sorry?
Sorry, I thought someone knocked.
Okay. You can also, if you don't have any of these available to your use Paint in your Word document, not Word document, sorry, in Microsoft, PC. Thank you. PC. PC use, or Mac uses the grab function, and you can actually select a piece of it and resize there. If you find a PDF and you want the graphic in a PDF, and it's like, this is exactly what I need, or maybe you've scanned it or you found something, you can use it. There's a little trick to it. You're going to zoom all the way in to that graphic about 500%, 400 to 500%. And if you go to the edit tool, this is actually a PDF of our presentation. Let's say I want to select our gentleman here, that's at the starting point. You're going to zoom in 500%, right here at the very top, there's 500. The middle point where the drop down is. Yep, right there. Zoom into 500, or you can type it in, 400. And if you select the Edit tab at the right corner, after File, the very top, File, Edit, top right corner, and scroll down to take a snapshot, you can select the area that you wish to copy, all the way to the bottom, and you can pick a piece of it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it was the runner.
It's
Sorry.
it's
Okay.
that's fine.
It's okay.
It's going to select the image for you that has been copied, and then you paste it into your PowerPoint. And depending on the size of your PowerPoint, it may be exactly what you need, that same size. If not, what it's going to do is that it's going to, since it's at a high scale, you can scale it down, and it's going to be a better quality than if you started at 100%. Okay? And you can, of course, double check the quality if you zoom into 100% and hover over it and see that it's not that fuzzy, not blurry. Okay? Did anybody have any questions? Okay.
Did you talk about the snipping tool? Sorry.
Oh, the snipping tool. The snipping tool is also available on your PCs. Now it's under the application called Snip and Sketch, and that is also an option for you to be able to select the area that you want to collect for your graphic. Okay? So using PowerPoint, what if they don't? What if the organization requires a different size where you're presenting? There's ways for you to resize your document. Or if you're starting from scratch and you do not want to use any of the resources available, you can create your own. If you go to the fourth tab at the very top of the right-hand corner, and then you scroll all the way down to slide size, you have custom slide on the third option down. You can change or adjust your width and your height, and then select OK. Once you select OK, if you have a pre-designed format, it will ask you if you want to maximize or ensure the fit of the material that you have in that PowerPoint. Select what's appropriate. I usually use with ensure size because it will kind of adjust it proportionately, and then you can go in and remodify the locations of your material on the PowerPoint. Once you're all done and you finish rearranging and you added your text, what you can do is, of course, export your file so that you can send it to be printed, or you can send it to a friend or to the organization if they're requiring a PDF document. If you save as a PDF in the PowerPoint presentation, it will keep your design size. So if you set it to a 24 by 36, it will maintain the 24 by 36 dimensions. If you do a print as PDF, it is going to save it into a letter size dimension. Unless you go into a specific advanced option and tell it the size that you meant to print it, it will not appropriately scale that for you as you've intended. And then, of course, a note: if you're trying to do all of this in a Word document because you already have all your information in a Word document, please don't. Do yourself a favor. Microsoft Word is for Word. Just for words, for drafting purposes only. You will have a very challenging time, and also Microsoft Word only lets you scale to a particular dimension. I think it's like a 20 by 20 or something other. If you are unsure if the PDF that you have saved scaled correctly, you can open up the PDF again and hover at the bottom left corner, and a little box will pop out. I'm not sure if you want to show that, right? Okay. You can zoom out or. Oh, that's okay, just leave it. If you just hover at the bottom corner, should show up.
Oh, it's, I have it in 500%.
50%, maybe 100%. Oh, right here, the box popped up. It says at 13.33 by 7.5. That's the dimensions that usually PowerPoint saves it to for presentation purposes. But if you had designed your file to 24 by 36 or some other larger size, it will hover. You will see it when you hover down at the bottom corner. And we spoke about the resolution. Okay. So what are other tips and tricks? So we looked at those samples, and we saw that there's some of the lines are bulky, some of them may be like not quite curved. It doesn't look quite right. So always use thin lines. If you're going to make a distinction or a separation between your files, make a thin line. Thin lines always look classy, looks more sophisticated, creates the visual of an open space, while still creating that division between your information. Careful with the boxes, as I said, and the heavy lines. Transition your images using gradients. That's always a nice thing. You can use it on the background. These are great. These options, if you're not sure how to create a gradient in PowerPoint, you can always do a quick YouTube video and it'll show you how to do that. You can create an effect using one image. And an example is this beach scene right here. Of course, it's a little too deep, it's saturated in color, so what you can do is just enlarge it to the size and make sure it's a high quality, as we said. And if you want it to be the main focus of your project, which I've seen this done by one of the professors, they were studying lightning, and they snapped a picture of the actual lightning, of course in the sky, and they faded it in the background. And a way to fade this is to put a white box over it and use the transition leveler to make it more or less transparent to the point where they can add words comfortably on the background, in the foreground, and the accent in the background. When you resize, is another option, is make sure that you're hitting the Shift key. I forget what it is in the Mac. It might be the Alt key, but you're selecting from the corner and dragging proportionately. If you're dragging from up or to the sides and not hitting that Shift key, you're going to end up with a logo that looks inappropriate, and it looks kind of ugly. And make sure that you're rearranging your text boxes and aligning your text boxes, because the worst that you can have is to have uneven text. It doesn't give it a nice, clear sight of vision, so that you're lining your text box appropriately for eyesight. Okay. So you've created a beautiful poster, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Hooray for you, you are done. And what do? So make sure you are double checking all your information with your advisor, because your advisor may say, hey, I don't like this word that you used, or hey, maybe let's change your photo, I don't like this photo. So regardless, make sure you're getting approved by your advisor, your professor, and probably the most important thing will be who's going to pay for it now that it's beautifully made. Sometimes you're working with a department where they specifically assigned you a research project and they're covered by a grant. Go ahead, or grant, or by the specific department itself, and they'll cover that charge for you. Other times, it's just added research, and you have to make sure that you have budgeted that personally. Regardless, if the department is assisting you, make sure that if they're working with the copy center, that they submit that order online with us through our webpage. And of course, if you're submitting through, if you are the one who's paying for the project, you can submit it yourself, and there are several ways that you can do that. You can send it online via our new website. There's a section called Signs and Banners, and there's different, the material that we print on comes in a variation of sizes, and you may have one of those sizes that of course fits perfectly for your presentation dimensions. So if you're doing a 24 by 36, you're going to select the size or the dimension that best fits the width of your project, the width or the height of your project. You're also going to want to make that determination depending on your available funds to you and your discretionary income, and because the different types of paper do cost differently. So if you want a satin poster versus a matte poster, these are all different amounts or cost differently. And you may want to make sure that if you're paying for it, that you're not designing at an extremely large size, because that will be, of course, more expensive. If you want to do it easy as well, you can submit the file to the Copy Center through copy@fit.edu, just email it, or you can share it if the file is way too large to CC staff at go.fit.edu and give us a call. If we're not busy and we're able to help you over the phone, we'll open up the file immediately with you and give you some feedback if it looks good, if we see some errors, or we speak to you about your time frame. We can give you a quote on the phone as well. So we have a little bit of a 5 to 10 minute conversation with you to try to meet your need, including the time frame and the turnaround, and then you can pay by phone. You can also drop by with a flash drive. We scan all flash drives with WebRoot to make sure that it does not compromise our system, so make sure you're not bringing in an external hard drive with a whole bunch of information in there. And of course, we'll fill out all the documentation and you can pay before you leave. So give it enough time to print. Most off-sites, if you decide that you need it really, or you need it by the weekend, you're not open on the weekend. So you may go off-site. Those locations require anywhere between 3 days or more. You will pay a premium if you need it that same day, so just make sure you're keeping that in mind. For the Copy Center, we work with the students. We know that sometimes you have emergencies, that you have work and go to school at the same time. So our guideline is if you provide it to us in the afternoon, then we give it to you the next day in the afternoon. If you provide it to us early in the morning, then we give it to you at the end of the day. So approximately 8 to 24 hours business day is the minimal amount of time. Up to 3 days is the maximum amount of time. Make sure that you're taking into account the transportation. So a lot of people are going far distances to present. Maybe you're taking a plane, or maybe you're going in a car. Regardless, we do have shipping tubes available for you, and you can also buy those on our website. And make sure that you take extra materials with you if you're presenting a book or some, or if you want flyers regarding, or maybe a small scale of your presentation on a letter size paper. You can print that at the Copy Center as well. And this is the creator, that beautiful poster that we showed as a sample. Remember that the poster is a reflection of your work. So aside from having dressed and created and taken into account how to make a creative and engaging poster, make sure that you yourself are dressing the part, that you are accurately representing yourself as a professional. Make sure that at least you're wearing casual business wear. For women, I reiterate, usually don't wear a mini skirt, but a skirt of, somewhere about knee length is appropriate with a blazer or a nice dress shirt. And for men, of course, slacks and polo, or if you're wearing more casual, jeans with a dress shirt and a blazer. So display the part, enjoy your finished product, and you're all set. So, if you have any questions, please let us know. I have part of the Copy Center brought some goodies for you in the back, some freebies. There's also flyers available for you if you have, if you want more information. And I have swatch books available for you of the different types of material that we carry, so that you can review those as well.
We also have 2 samples of posters with 2 different paper styles. So if you just want to come over and see them, check them out. If you want to check about the gradients and how to do them, actually one of the posters has it. And if you have any questions, just let Kathy know or myself.
Thank you very much.
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
In terms of the format for submitting the files, I've been asked to submit a poster in PowerPoint format. However, we know that there are different versions of PowerPoint. And sometimes, the content when it is opened up in, let's say, a newer version or an older version, it can look totally different from the computer on which it was created.
Correct.
Right. So in terms of moving these types of files, would you recommend using a PowerPoint format or the PDF format? Which one is more stable as you move it around?
Right. If you know for a fact that it's Florida Tech who's requesting for the PowerPoint format, you can come to the library and open up your document if you're unsure due to the versions in PowerPoint. The library maintains the most up-to-date PowerPoint format, so that way, and most offices do as well, we keep generally a same base of software available to the staff and faculty. So if you want to make sure and kind of eliminate that potential for error, just come here and open up your document and save it here at the university or at the library in the latest 2018 or 19, we're actually on 2020, I think, version. And for safe measure, just save it as a PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, a PDF, so that they see what it's supposed to look like. I think that would have to be a discussion that you have with the individual that you're submitting. I don't think PowerPoint has a foolproof method of submitting a document without it shifting like that. That's the reason why we suggest the PDF, because the PDF retains all your the dimensions and all the text and graphics accordingly to what you've designed it.
However, I do understand your question because for the doctoral showcase, we had to submit the posters in PowerPoint format. And I feel that it might have been because if there was anything that needed to be fixed when it comes to like dimensions or maybe something that was not going to be, you know how sometimes when you print, if you don't leave enough space, it might tend to bleed. So maybe those would be corrections that they would make before actually printing the poster.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The template that you provided is in PowerPoint or PDF? And the
The I'm sorry.
The one-
This presentation is
the template for the poster.
yes.
Template for the poster.
The template for the poster is available on the marketing creative services toolbox,
It is a PowerPoint.
and it is created as a PowerPoint. Yes. So these are all created as PowerPoint. They look like PDF. They took kind of like a screenshot and put it up there, just so that you can see. But if you select the horizontal, this is the horizontal. But if you select the vertical, it's going to compartmentalize everything a little bit more differently.